Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. I'm coming to you live from Pailo, Hawaii. My name is Craig Villarrubia, and you have joined Awakening with A Course in Miracles, and I am excited, as I am every week, to join with everyone because it's an opportunity for me to share an answer and strengthen the idea of truth, which is why we're all on this spiritual path. So I'm excited. I'm excited today because our guest is coming to us from Los Angeles, Bridget Trama, who will be joining us today and sharing. And I'm excited because this is my first time collaborating and actually working and joining with Bridget, so I'm excited about that. We were brought together by a mutual friend, a mutual course teacher, and as life always has a wonderful way of bringing people together, she's joining us today. We also have friendly faces who've joined us before. We have Mark in the room. We have a new guest to me, and I'm going to pronounce it Tavi, but I'm not too sure if I'm pronouncing it right.
Yeah, correct.
You can. Awesome. And then we have Tony, and I know there's people also watching the stream. So thank you for joining us. Today's topic is hearing or listening to the Holy Spirit. And before we get going with the topic, I just want to share a little bit of what's happening here on the ranch. You know, this week has been an exciting week for many reasons, but most importantly because within the last 7 days, I've had about 4 or 5, actually I've had 5 cows actually give birth. So I've been witness to 5 beautiful calves that have been brought into this world. And it's so cool because, you know, this spiritual journey that we're on, you know, what we really want to know with everything that's happening, what we really want to know is that we're taken care of and that everything's going to be okay. And what's beautiful about watching these calves and their births is here they are. I mean, I literally watched them come out into the world. Like, they're taking their first glance of the world, and I'm like watching this. They come out, and they can't, obviously they can't walk immediately, and they're taking their first steps, and it's like, you know, it's like this trial and error. It's like they get up, and then they fall, and by the way, I will post a video of this on Facebook, so if you want to see this, you can join me on Facebook, and I'll post it at some point today. But it's like getting up and falling, and eventually the calf gets up, cute as can be. He's got these big, just bright eyes, and then instinctively the calf moves on over to the udders of the mother and instinctively like starts to drink from, you know, the mother. And what I find so fascinating is, like, I know there isn't an identity of a calf there thinking to itself, oh, I got to find the udder, or I got to do this, or I got to stand up. It's just like, by the power of grace, everything is continuing to unfold. And so this process, or this unfolding of this birth and this life, is, for me, teaching me or demonstrating to me that everything is on its own is okay. Everything is being taken care of. Everything is unfolding as grace would have it. And that's always the case. That's always the case. The problem we get into is we have a thought system that would judge against the way grace is unfolding. Of Course in Miracles says that everything works for good. Only in the ego's judgment can that differ. And so everything is working for good, and only the thought system that gets in the way seems to create a sense of suffering, a sense of resistance to what's happening is always the challenge. So it's been beautiful to be able to witness that here at the ranch, and I look forward to sharing that video of the newest member to start walking, or just started walking, so I'll share that. And so today's topic is about hearing the voice for the Holy Spirit. Of Course in Miracles tells us that the voice for God is speaking to us always, but sometimes it doesn't feel that way. Sometimes the thought system, which is basically the thought system of me, the one that's in charge, the one that believes it knows its best interest, that thought system seems to block out the voice for Spirit that is speaking to us all the time. And I know for me, when I first began the course, one of the most challenging things for me is hearing the Holy Spirit. I wanted to know, what did the Holy Spirit sound like? I would talk to people, I would talk to teachers, and by the way, I interviewed a lot of teachers. And even when I did my movie, interviewing all these teachers, the one question I asked was, how do you hear the Holy Spirit? What does the Holy Spirit sound like? And I got, for every person I spoke to, I got different answers, which in many ways didn't help me, but in a huge way did help me, because then I eventually figured out that it was an answer that only I could hear, and it simply required my willingness to trust what I was hearing, beyond or before the thought system of the ego, before the thought system that would block it. And so what I've come to realize for me, and this is my experience, because that's all I can speak to, is that the Holy Spirit is basically the presence that precedes anything that needs to unfold. And so what I mean by that is, and I'll share an example, I had the other day, it was probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I live in a ranch, I live in a very rural area, and there's nothing next to me, and I live where we have wild pigs, we have hogs that run wild on the ranch, and you don't see them too often. It's not like they're out and about, like right in front of my house, but they're out there. And so, anyways, I have 2 dogs right now, and one of the dogs is a dog we found that off the street. So it's a feral dog that we brought in. She's as cute as can be. Her name is Minnie, and Minnie occasionally likes to just wander off away from the house and out into the woods. I'm in the rainforest, and there's about 200 acres here, and so occasionally she likes to run off, and she'll come back later that night or later that evening. And so not too long ago, Minnie had gone off like she typically does, and she came back later that evening, and it was a Sunday night, and she came back with this like 4 or 5 inch gash across her stomach. I mean, I had never seen anything like that. And that wasn't the only gash she had. She had a big old gash in the back. I mean, she was beat up, and it had become obvious that she had encountered these hogs, these pigs, and they have husks, and they're obviously could be dangerous to the dog, especially when they're cornered. Now, she's a silly dog. She's one of these dogs that thinks that she's bigger than she is. She's one of these dogs that thinks she's tough, and so I could only imagine that she went out there to hunt a pig, and to her surprise, this pig fought back. And so she comes in, she's like, I wouldn't say in pieces, but she's like torn apart. It's a Sunday night, and I'm on the big island of Hawaii, and the population here is less than 200,000. There isn't a 24-hour vet on the island. That just doesn't exist here. It's not like LA where you have the conveniences of a 24-hour emergency care. So here we have this dog, and she came back, and she's as happy as can be. She's wagging her tail, clueless to the insides that I could see. I had never seen anything like. I could see her, like her everything inside the stomach. I can see that. I had never seen that, but I saw it then. And so she's coming. She's wagging her tail. I'm like, my jaw just drops. And so, and my partner was here with me, and I'm like, what do we do? What do we do? And I can feel the panic just become thrusting to my mind, and everything that can go wrong, and just this fear just kind of rushed to my head. And at the same time, there was also a very present awareness to what was true. And I credit certainly the course and the mind training with this awareness, or the ability to be aware of something much deeper than what the mind was about to get into. And so this awareness called me to stop and remind myself that what I was seeing, the illusion, not necessarily the physical evidence of what was happening with the dog, but the illusion in my mind of all the worry and the panic and what was going to happen. And I was about to run and get a needle and thread and start sewing her up myself. And I had to stop and pause. And really what I was doing, and what I think for me the course has taught me, is to listen to the Holy Spirit, is simply just to pause and allow for space, allow for the presence which is speaking to us all through the day. Of course, the miracle says God's voice speaks to us all through the day. So I ask myself, what is here in my experience all through the day? Well, all through the day, there is a silent presence. So that has to be the portal. Because that silent presence, which is with me all through the day, which is unchangeable and unalterable, must be the voice, because there is nothing else other than that presence. So let me get with that presence. And so I did, and all of a sudden I could feel the mind kind of slowing down, and everything became now a wonderment. I went from this panicked situation to really a sense of wonderment. So what was once perceived as this open wound where I can see the inside now became this, oh wow, look what is unfolding. Now, I didn't have this thought at that time. I'm saying this now. But what it felt like in that moment was like, wow, let's see how grace is going to unfold in this situation. Can I trust grace? And so what immediately started to happen is my partner, without even me realizing it, had already been online doing some research as to how to handle this. And I instinctively grabbed the towel, wrapped it around her midsection. He came back. He says, oh, I have an answer. We're not going to sew her up because we don't want to create an infection. I found out that you can actually use, and listen up everybody, in case you have a 4-inch cut yourself or an animal has a 4-inch cut and you don't have a hospital nearby, you can use super glue. Yes, super glue, to actually glue the skin together. In fact, if you ever used super glue and got your fingers stuck together, you know what I'm talking about. But you can actually glue or mend the skin back together. And so we got the super glue. We laid her down. She was very patient. And I think in part because of this sense of patience and presence, she was also patient and present. So she wasn't freaked out. She wasn't in pain. And so, this went over probably a couple of hours. I don't remember how long, but there was some time there. And so we laid her down gently, and we cleaned her up. We got the super, we mended it back. We mended her back behind. All of a sudden, everything that needed to happen happened. And so what was perceived as this anxious state, this, oh my God, I didn't know what to do, was allowed to, or what needed to happen was allowed to work through us. And I'm happy to report that she is completely healed. The next day, one of her things opened up, and we got the super glue and put it back together. And it turns out, I didn't know this, but it turns out that actually in surgery, many doctors and hospitals actually use super glue to put people back together and then sew afterwards. I didn't know that. And so anyway, long story short, and the point of sharing that is because really in every situation that we're in, this voice, this presence is always with us. And so for me, listening to the Holy Spirit is just bringing my awareness, or the attention of my awareness, back, withdrawing attention from the thought system that would comment on everything that's happening, withdrawing that, and just really coming into a sense of presence to allow whatever is to unfold to work through me, and allow grace, just in the same way grace demonstrates to me as I watch these calves just kind of figure out what needs to be done. Allow that to, the way that unfolds, to allow that to unfold in my life, in everything that's happening. So that, to me, in my experience right now, is how I hear Holy Spirit. It's really just withdrawing my attention from the commentary and being completely present with, which calls forth the sense of trust and faith that all works for the good of the whole, no matter what. And I'll just leave it at that at this point, and just share that my partner just said that my partner's taken off. He's going to a meeting, and we have another cow that's about to give birth, and he says before he leaves, he says, oh, by the way, Bogue, which is the name of the cow, this is Bogue's first pregnancy. And when it's the first pregnancy, you may actually have to help her. I'm like, what does that mean? He says, you're going to have to pull the calf out. I'm like, Are you serious? So I'll be listening to the Holy Spirit this afternoon, and I will shortly give an update on Facebook. So that has been my week. Thank you guys for allowing me to share that with you. I'm excited to now introduce our guest, Bridget Trama. I'm going to introduce her and allow her to share her insight and her inspiration and anything else that she wants to extend with regards to healing the Holy Spirit. And then I want to remind everybody, after Bridget shares with us, anybody and everybody is invited to join in to the conversation. Simply raise your hand and announce yourself, and if you have a question, join in as well. So with that, welcome, Bridget. Thank you for joining me here. I'm so excited to have you. Welcome.
I just had to mute myself. Can you hear me now?
I sure can.
Okay. Oh my God, what a great share. I so was smiling ear to ear the whole time. I loved it. I was just I was about to jump out of my chair, just yes, pause, because that's a lesson that I'm learning right now is I have to pause so I can give space to hear Holy Spirit, because what happens is we're so frantic, we're always listening to that frantic part of our mind. It's funny, I had, before I joined, I pulled up lesson 49, God's voice speaks to me all through the day, because it is really so incredible. God is speaking to us all through the day. We have access to that voice all day, but we almost never pause to hear it. And so one of the things that I really related to your story was, and mine wasn't as dramatic, but it was very similar in that I was late for work and I couldn't find my keys. And so I went into that frantic part of my mind that was like, oh my God, where's the keys? How do I find the keys? Oh, I'm going to be late. Oh, I can't be late. And there was this, and in lesson 49 it talks about, that frantic part of our mind that we're always going to is not Holy Spirit. And so I went to that part of my mind and I was flipping out, and then all of a sudden I had the awareness, you can ask for help. You can ask Holy Spirit. And the frantic part of my mind was like, no, you can't. You can't sit and do, I was like, do your lesson. And so my mind was like, no, don't do your lesson. How dare you sit for 2 minutes? We need those 2 minutes to find the keys. And I said, no, I'm going to sit and do my lesson. And so I sat on my bed and I did my lesson, and that frantic part of my mind was like, this is insane. Go find your keys. Don't waste these 2 minutes here. I did my lesson, and do you know, and I said before I did my lesson, and if you could help me find my keys, that'd be great. And I literally saw, where I put my keys in my skirt and where I put it. And I looked, and there it was. And it was just this simple reminder that there's no space for answers when we're just in the frantic. So that we have to really take a moment and give space for an answer. And so that really has become a practice for me now. I will catch myself in different situations where I recognize I'm frantic. And then I say, pause, like you were saying, and give space to hear it. I also totally related to when you were speaking about, well, what does the Holy Spirit sound like? And I asked a million Course in Miracles teachers, well, how do you know what you're hearing, and how do you hear it, and this, that, and the other? And something really cool that started to happen for me was I started to see these visual metaphors. And so Holy Spirit speaks in many different ways, and that's not necessarily the case. Although some people actually do hear a very strong, loud voice, and I think as we practice, we allow more and more for that powerful of a voice. But the Holy Spirit can speak to us in so many different ways. We can hear it through a song. We can hear it through, a video we watch, or a feeling. So it's like I love how the Course says we're you can be, oh, I don't know, I just lost my train of thought with that. Well, anyway, so, you know, it's like we have these two minds, the fearful mind and the love mind, and so we're constantly choosing. And there's this attraction, like the Course says, the attraction to guilt. So we're often just attracted to that voice. But that small slog I ever did was how to hear your inner guide. And the metaphor that came to me was being in a restaurant and you're talking to someone and you're having this beautiful, loving conversation, say, and then a fight breaks out. Most of us go to the fight. Here we're having this beautiful, loving conversation with our friend, but the chaos is just too tempting, and we start to go over here to the fight. But meanwhile, love is right here. But the chaos is, and so that's sort of a metaphor of what's happening. We're attracted to this guilt, this chaos, but meanwhile, love is just quietly waiting for us to listen. So that's kind of a way I like to go to that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like this attraction to being separate, or to be this separate entity, which is what the thought system serves. It serves and feeds the idea that I'm a separate person or separate entity, separate from source. And so it is very attractive. I love the fact that my friend Tony Williamson, who's here in the room, is reminding me that, you know, I believe it is in the text that Jesus says we are the Holy Spirit. So we are the love. So the love that we're in is really what we are. And so, you know, when you think about it, even from a logical perspective, if the Holy Spirit is an extension of God, then the Holy Spirit must share in all of God's attributes, as do we. And so the Holy Spirit is communicating to us through all kinds of ways. And to your point, Bridget, which I was hearing is, you know, it can come through, you know, visuals, it can come through songs, it can come through words, it can come through anything, because the Holy Spirit is everything.
Yeah.
So there's nothing the Holy Spirit can't use. But it seems like, yeah, that attraction to the separate thought system, you know, it's the identification with that thought system that seems to obscure the reality of the love that we are and the peace that we are in each and every moment.
Sorry, you're cutting down. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yep.
Okay.
So you were sharing, Bridget, about your move. You just moved to Los Angeles from New York, and I know that you had shared before that this has become a learning opportunity for you to look at what needs to be healed. Is there anything that comes to mind that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think that every time we have an obstacle, or, you know, life becomes unsettled, it really is this incredible opportunity, you know. And I think that it shifts the way you see everything. Is if you start to see, okay, this is bringing up something that I haven't addressed yet. It's allowing me to see something that, you know, because the Course says, like, if anything is disturbing your peace, then that is a block to love, you know. And so if we all really get honest with ourselves, most of us are not experiencing perfect peace, you know, for most of the time. So we really want these opportunities to see what am I still holding on to, like even when you read the Course, like, I know a lot of people get triggered by the Christian terminology and things like that. And one of the things I often say to people is, get excited something is triggering you. You know, get excited that there's something showing you that's disturbing your peace, and allow for that to be an opportunity to turn it over. Because one of the things I'm getting with the Course is the answer is always turn it over. Turn it over, turn it over, turn it over. Because I know I've spent my whole life trying to figure it out, trying to do it, trying to muscle it out. And this move brought up so much, because I had, like, my whole world was, as I was saying to you before, but I'll tell those that are just getting on the line, it was like everything in New York City, I had it kind of under control. You know, I had my home, my apartment, my job, my friends, my classes, and I was under the illusion. It was like an upheaval. You know, it was like, oh my God, I have to get a car, and where do I go to the grocery store? And where's the you know, it was just a million things being thrown at me that it felt unmanageable, and it brought up all this stuff, like all these emotions that were kind of like pushed down, and so it started to force me to call on the help, call on the help. So all day, I do my best now. I keep going, oh, wow, I could ask for help right now. And so that's one of the things that I always am encouraging people, like, call on the help. SOS, man, SOS, God, you know, like, Holy Spirit, you know, I'll just tell you, I was in a work situation recently, and I also, for those of you who don't know, I do hair and makeup, and I didn't bring the right products. And so I was like trying to do this person's hair, and it was all sticky, and I was like, oh my God, what? And I thought, call on God. On God. Right now, like I literally just kept saying it over and over, and then I started to say my lesson. And then the pause happened, Craig, where I was like, oh wait, I have a water bottle. And then I sprayed it out. Like, you know, it was like, but in the frantic, I couldn't have that logical answer until I gave the pause and the space for Holy Spirit. So Holy Spirit speaks in those ways where just suddenly the answer becomes clear to you. That's Holy Spirit too.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the space has to be there to be able to hear it and come into it. You were talking and sharing a little bit about your experience being used for the purpose of healing, which I love, and it's really, it's like, it's beautiful what you were saying. It's like when we can welcome all these seeming upsets because we know what their purpose is, which is to forgive. And if our aim is truth, so if we want to know truth, you know, in A Course in Miracles, in the introduction, it says it is a required course, and it does so not because the form is the course, not that everybody needs to do A Course in Miracles, but what it's saying is to know truth, we must undo the error. The error must be undone, and it's not we as the person, but we have to allow Spirit to undo the error, but the error can't be done until it is looked at. So it is a required course. It also means that it is, our salvation is guaranteed. In other words, we're going to learn whatever it is that we want to learn. And the Course says its aim is to help us save time. So what I'm hearing when you're talking, Bridget, is basically there's a willingness, look, I want to save time, so show me what I got to clean up in the closet. You know, show me what I got to, like, pull out and look at for the healing, because at the end of the day, this is why we're here. This is it, is to come back to the truth. So I thought you shared that very well. And I want to say that doesn't mean, you know, for everybody that I'm enjoying the, like, you know, the upheaval, but it does. It doesn't take me out like it used to. You know, it's like my bounce back rate is so much quicker because I recognize there's something here. You know, whereas before practicing A Course in Miracles, you know, I was just lost in the upset. And now it's like, it's so beautiful, it's so incredible that it can't take me out the way it used to. And that's one of the benefits of A Course in Miracles, you know, is that, you know, not getting completely lost in it anymore. Yeah, that is where the understanding really is. It's not like, you know, it's not like we can actually understand awakening. We cannot really understand enlightenment. But the understanding comes in when we look to the seeming past or the seeming story and come to recognize, oh wow, you know, that thing that used to trigger me no longer triggers me, or the upsets that used to really throw me off, they don't quite throw me off anymore. Or here I am in the experience of what used to scare me, and I'm not scared anymore. That is where there's understanding that this is working. This is real. This is truth. God is real.
It's that conviction
maybe,
thing. You know, when the Course says, you know, it's through conviction. You know, you have an experience that you perceive, you know, a new way. You have a new experience, and that makes you more apt to look for the new perception, and then therefore you see more of the miracles. You know, so it's that whole idea of conviction. Like, we can't deny our experience. Like, I love when the Course says, you need not believe it, you need not like it, you can actively resist it, but just practice the principles and you'll experience their truth. And so we can't deny we're having shifts. We're, you know, less triggered. We bounce back quicker. Like, that's what I find keeps me going.
yeah, yeah. It's beautiful. I just want to share, I need take thought for nothing, but one function I would fulfill, the letting go, truly forgiving. Thank you. That is beautiful. Absolutely. It's like, you know, when we talk about being vigilant for God or for the kingdom, that is what it's about. Is really not accepting anything that is not true. Anything that would suggest that we are separate from Source and so forth. Welcome, Axel, to the room. I also want to make mention, if anybody has a question or wants to share, certainly raise your hand or make it obvious, and we welcome your voice here in the Hangout.
Can I say one thing before we start that I just wanted to add?
Go for it.
You know, a lot when people ask, like, how do you hear your inner voice, your Holy Spirit voice? In that lesson, I believe, in 49, I think it said you need to invite your Creator to speak to you. So, like, everybody who's listening, start inviting Holy Spirit to speak to you. Like that, literally, it's like that it talks about, you know, we have free will, so we have to ask. Like, the importance of asking is so strong. So, you know, everybody listening, start having a dialogue. Start asking your Holy Spirit to speak to you throughout the day. And that just, like, opens the floodgates, you know. So I just wanted to really add that.
That's beautiful. You're so right. It's like it opens the floodgates, because in the asking, really what it is a willingness to let go that we know, because we don't know. The separate self-concept can't know. Not only can it not know, they can't do anything.
Yeah.
So you can't. And so the importance of asking is really a demonstration that we're willing to set aside our self-interest for salvation. Really, we're willing to die. That's what's really happening. Is we're willing to die to what's true, which is God, which is love. Yeah. And so oftentimes you hear, especially like in non-duality teachings, you hear about this willingness to die to the moment. It's like this constant, like, death of the ego. It's a divine suicide, because its purpose and its intent is really to know oneself as truth, oneself as the Holy Spirit.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Who's got questions?
So David apologizes, but he can't raise his hand, but he's jumping in. Come on, jump in, David. Absolutely, you're welcome to.
Is he on mute?
If you're on mute, you'll have to take yourself off mute.
Oh, he doesn't have a cam. I think we could hear your voice, though. Oh, okay.
Oh, Mike, okay. Well, we see your texts, and we appreciate your sharing and extension. So, Bridget, I'd love to ask, what inspired your move to Los Angeles? You were sharing a little bit about how it's been so helpful for your awakening and your mind training.
Calling. Holy Spirit. Yeah. I can't explain it. You know, because like I said, I had a great life in New York City. It wasn't like I was like, you know, but I just kept getting this sort of inner, you know, I was just drawn to the West Coast, and I just kept. I can't explain it. It was like it just literally kept going. Like, you need to go to LA and start classes there. Like, it was. there was no logical reason, which is why, like, I know, good. There's no logical reason. There was just that feeling. And I followed it. I jumped off the cliff, and here I am. And, it's very interesting, the getting places to do classes reassures me that Spirit is behind me with it. And, so I feel very encouraged that I am on the right path. Actually, I know I am. It's like it's strange. Like, as difficult as it's been, it feels so right. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I remember in my situation, I actually was born and raised in New York, and I moved to Los Angeles. And in this very similar manner was this sense of inspiration, which, is in my opinion, in my experience, is the Holy Spirit speaking. It is us speaking in the experience of love and the experience of inspiration. And so to listen to that voice and follow it did lead me to Los Angeles, for which I lived in LA for 15 years, and you seem to have moved to LA right when I left.
I know.
And I moved since to Hawaii, which is totally based out of inspiration. When I was moving to LA, in the back of my mind, there was also thoughts of what I was going to do in LA, and there's certainly things I wanted to accomplish in LA. But when I moved to Hawaii, the seeming difference was just that I really had no clue of what was going to happen and what I was going to do in Hawaii. I still don't know. Apparently it's Google Hangouts. Who knew?
Yeah.
And
hey, I don't know either.
It's turned out to be quite fun. So this idea of listening to inspiration and following it is really listening to Spirit, to the Holy Spirit. And again, I'll just come back because I think the point that you made is so poignant and so important, is I find when we listen to inspiration, and to your point, there's not a lot of logic around it. At least for me, in most situations, when I follow inspiration, it seems to go beyond logic. But it's a feeling and an excitement and a tickle in the heart. And so we follow it. And what inevitably happens is, because there isn't a lot of logic in it, after we follow it, or even sometimes when we want to or we're about to follow it, the thoughts that would say, don't do it, or the thoughts that would say you can't do it, or the thoughts that would say, oh my God, look at what you did, would come up. And so that's how I think inspiration, or following inspiration, is really a means to waking up. So if we lived our lives in such a way that all we did was follow inspiration, which is really living our lives, and all we do is follow the voice for Spirit, right? If that was it, our awakening is guaranteed, because ultimately, through following that prompt or those prompts, whatever needs to be healed, again, coming back to your point, is going to come up for the healing. And I find that it tends to do so when we do follow these prompts of inspiration that are not led by logical thinking. They're led by something inexplicable, which is typically, which is definitionless.
Yeah. That point about logic, and like, I love how the Course says that, you're how you're hearing Holy Spirit is, how do you feel? Like, are you at peace? So that's really a great way to know, are you listening to your ego, or are you listening to your spirit voice? So, anytime you feel discomfort, fear, upset, trigger, you're listening to ego, so that's like very telling, and we can all admit, and I'll admit myself, I'm listening to ego a lot, if that's the barometer. So it's a good way. And one of the things that this move to California has brought up was, some old patterns of, like, for me, one of my old patterns was being sort of in situations and being like, oh yeah, let's do it, let's do this, oh yeah, it'll work out, but not being clear with people, like, what you expect? What, let's really think out how this will work out in 3 months, looking ahead, where I kind of would always do this thing where I would get involved in situations and be like, yeah, let's not worry about it, it's going to be great. No, so it's like we still are experiencing the world. We still have to live in the world, so that feeling of like, maybe we should talk this out, like that's what I'm starting to learn. So like I've had new situations now where I've learned lessons where I'm like, okay, great, this is a good idea. Let's talk about what are you expecting, what am I expecting, and it's this maturity that I didn't have before that I was forced into. But that doesn't mean that my old patterning, my ego voice isn't like, oh, forget it, just jump in, don't worry about it. So, and it's hard it's really not hard, it's just a habit of listening to that voice that just wants you to, do what it wants you to do. Into that peaceful, like, how I've been monitoring is like, do I feel at peace in this scenario? I don't. Maybe I should step back, but the part of my mind that's that I've been listening to most of my life is like, no, forget it, just jump in. So that's sort of a way to start to hear, like, what is the voice of love and what is the voice of fear? Are you at peace?
Beautiful. Yeah. As you were speaking, it brought up a lot of thoughts in my mind. And next week the topic is love without sacrifice. And what came for me when you were sharing is I've been there, and I recognize that voice of wanting to comply or wanting to engage or wanting to please, whether it be an invitation to do something I don't want to do or feel compelled to do something I don't want to do, or not really, or question, how did I end up in this situation where I've committed? And what I end up finding out as I look at that, as we do the investigation, to your point, it's like we want to join with that ego voice that just wants to go ahead and jump in. And what I find is that ego voice always wants something. So like in my experience, I find where I've committed myself into something that I didn't want to do, through hindsight and looking at it, it's because on some level I wanted to get something from it, whether it be approval, whether it be love, whether I want somebody to like me, whether I want to get something from the other person. And it's not always easy to look at, but that is the truth, and that is what the voice is doing. And then all of a sudden I end up in a position of, gee, how did I get there? What happened? And I'm not happy. To your point, the experience is not peaceful. Oh, it's because I'm buying into this thought system of fear, and I'm compromising. Really, is what's going on. So I like what you shared when you talked about this maturing, to be able to stop and pause and say, wait, what is this really about? And is this really something that I want to do? Is this something that I want to commit to, or whatever? Having the opportunity to question and being okay. In my mind, I mean, there was a time where I couldn't do that because I was too thirsty for love, and I thought I would find it by sacrificing or by belittling my own needs. Yeah. But truly, if love is without sacrifice or compromise, then that means I could do and ask for whatever feels guided.
Yeah, and to that point, I find that it's really that I'm not trusting. Like those situations that I'm in that I feel sort of like, oh, maybe I should, or it's because there's like this fear I'm not being sustained by the love of God. That there isn't another scenario that's more peaceful and more in flow. So it's like this place I'll say for myself, that when I'm listening to that fearful voice, I'm not trusting that God has got me. So and you can really, like, it's that development of trust the Course talks about, like trusting that I can say no to this, and there's more. Like I don't have to feel like I'll lose something to say no, because if I trust that voice, there'll be something even more appropriate, or in the higher good.
Yeah, and in the higher good is really stepping into what's definitionless and what is completely sustaining us. And I guess what I'm saying is when we do step into the love, when we're willing to trust the voice for God, and step into whatever's called for, where we land is the prize, because it's like, going back again to this idea of conviction, where we land and we recognize, oh wait, I can follow inspiration. I can follow the part of me that doesn't want to compromise. I can follow that, and then find out that, oh, because of it, I'm at peace. I'm okay. I'm still okay. And the truth is, in our deepest suffering, all we want to know is that we're okay, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
So this is peace is no idle gift. It is really it's all there really is worth having is peace. So
yeah. I mean, I remember for myself how I even got back into the Course in Miracles. I found the Course in Miracles like 10 years ago, when I was in crisis, and it ended up. It's a long story. I won't go into it all here, but. And I did it for 6 months. My life got better, and I was like, oh, I don't need this book anymore. And then I was in crisis again about 5 years ago, and I was like, oh, yeah, that book. So it's like you're going back to that place of like, I kind of lost my train of thought, what I was just saying. What was your point before that? I just lost my train of thought. So
I don't remember, but this is what happens sometimes. That's all good,
I'm like, wait, why did I just bring that up? I have no idea.
But I did see a hand go up, so maybe that's the clue for us. Tavi, can you hear us?
I think
you're
he's on
mute.
Can you hear me?
Oh, there you go. Now we could.
You can hear me now? Okay, great. So yeah, my question is, how do you, like when you're getting really guided to do something, but you're really afraid to do it? Like, what do you do in that situation? You just go and do it?
Say that again?
Bridget?
Like, you're getting guided to do something, but you're really scared to do it, so you kind of feel like paralyzed, that you can't go forward and move towards something.
Well, I guess something that, if you're not, like, one of the things that I use as a barometer is am I feeling peace in this decision? And if I'm not feeling peace yet, then I may pause before moving forward in it. So it's like, I don't know what the specific thing is, so it's like you kind of want to go to a space of, is this something that has to happen right now? If I'm not feeling ready to do it, if I'm not feeling peaceful about it, then I would pause till I do feel peaceful about doing it. Would you be open to giving us sort of an example of what you're talking about? So maybe that could be a little bit more helpful with what.
The question kind of just came to me. I was thinking of another question, and I was like, okay, what question am I going to ask?
Okay.
But then the question came, so I don't really have an example. I mean, maybe just asking a question, because I kind of was delaying it. I'm scared to ask a question, but I just have to do it.
Like, then for me, if I'm not at peace moving forward, I often tell myself to pause, because there's a reason why you're not ready to jump. There's something in you that's not, is conflicted, and that's always ego. The ego is always conflicted. It's like, oh shit, I should, so that doesn't mean you don't take action. That doesn't mean that you don't move forward, but I would take a pause and give it, even 24-hour pauses are great. Like, we're always just jumping into something, like, and not giving it that pause where clarity can come in, where that voice of reason can come in, where Holy Spirit can come in. But you also want to look at why are you not doing it? Is it fear where it's like you think you're not good enough? Then I say that's different.
Okay.
Like if it's something that where you're not doing something because you don't have that other voice is telling you you're not enough. Don't listen to that voice.
Okay.
Any voice that's telling you you're not good enough, you didn't do it right, you should give up. That's the voice of fear. Don't listen to that voice ever. That's bad counsel. You want to listen to the voice that knows that you're enough, that that you have it in you, So that's how when I'm listening to that voice that's afraid because, oh, maybe somebody else is doing it or I shouldn't do it, that voice is nonsense. That's the voice we want to stop listening to.
Okay.
You want to listen to the voice that says you're powerful, you're enough, you got this. That's the voice that's true.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Sure.
Very helpful.
We have Tony coming to us from Ohio who also would like to share on that. Tony, go ahead.
I would, and what an amazing topic today. And I just want to say, you guys have done a fantastic job. The Holy Spirit and connecting with the Holy Spirit, so many people have so many questions, and like everyone else, I went through a long process of trying to discover, what is that voice? Is it going to be separate? Is it going to be big and boisterous? Is it going to hit me in the head? It's definitely going to be something different. It's going to be something different. And one day, as I was studying the course, I was in a pattern of sitting on my sun deck, and it was early spring, and I would go out there early as the sun was coming up, and I would start meditating. And I started pondering the question, because it came to me, and I kept saying, well, if we're all one, and the Holy Spirit is the voice for God, I get that. It's the voice for truth. It's the voice for love. But in A Course in Miracles, he also says that the Holy Spirit is nothing more than your right mind. It is you. It is you. So if it's me, is it my voice? And so I started pondering the question, and I literally was meditating, and I started drifting off a little bit. And suddenly my body began to shift, and I began to hear this loud vibration. And I won't go into the details on that experience, but the point is I got the message. And the message is, it is your voice. And a couple of things that helped me, and I try to share with people, is if you've ever had, you're listening to your thoughts, and you're thinking, I this, I this, I this, I that, blah, 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 and it's I, right? It's all me, 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 me. The Holy Spirit will communicate to you as in second person. It'll say, you need to, grab your keys on the way out. It'll address you as you rather than I, which is kind of interesting. It's something that I really started noticing that pattern. But ultimately, one of the easiest ways, guys, that I've found to communicate with the Holy Spirit is to start simple. It's a practice, and it's called the Holy Instant. It is the foundation for the Holy Instant. That's what the Holy Instant is. It's not an instant in time, it's an instant in eternity, wherein you are joined in mind with the Holy Spirit. Real simple, right? Sounds simple. So if we're going to learn how to play piano, we need to learn some basic stuff. So we start by asking questions that have a yes or no answer. And here's the difficult part. You have to shut up. You have to shut up. You have to ask the question and then say, Father, what's the truth here? Holy Spirit, what's the truth here? Jesus, show me the truth here in this situation, and here's a real simple one to ask yourself continuously throughout the day. Are you with me? And then shut up and listen. And you'll hear that voice, and it will begin to inform you, and it'll begin to tell you yes. And it'll respond yes before you even get a chance to think about listening to the answer, because you begin to realize that it is one with you, and the answer's already there. And so I just wanted to share that as a step for those who feel that they're struggling, and other people say they hear the Holy Spirit, what am I doing? Am I doing something wrong? Well, no, you can't do it wrong. You can only resist it. You can't do it wrong. And even that's not wrong. There's no such thing as wrong. There's only obstacles that you place in front of yourself that keep you from joining in mind, because that's the only place you can join, in mind. And we can talk about it as intuition, which is a wonderful way of seeing it. because that's what it is. But it is just a knowing or an informing or a voice that's kind of guiding you, because it's the Father's good pleasure to give you all that is. Your function and your purpose is to be happy. So seriously and absolutely, the Holy Spirit is the best friend you've ever had, and knows every thought you've ever had. So you can't hide anything. You don't have to worry about cuss words or how you look or how you feel or nothing else, because the Holy Spirit is one with you. It is you. So I just wanted to share that just as a point, Craig and Greg. I really appreciate the opportunity here to just to listen in and to see what you guys are doing, because I think it's wonderful. So I'll be quiet now, but thanks for giving me a chance to comment a little bit.
Thank you, Tony.
Wow.
I appreciate it. That was beautiful. And I love this. You know, if there's anything that I walk away with, and there was a lot of gems in what Tony just shared, but just this idea is that we can't mess it up. And nothing could go wrong. Again, it's, I started to talk a little bit about, grace is always taking care of us, so we can't mess it up. So even in the thought of what should I do, and I think we've all been in that situation of like, oh my God, I want to do this, but I'm afraid to do this. The suffering is not in the decision itself, because the decision, when we actually, when I moved to Hawaii, I left my job, and obviously I left my house and everything in LA. The hard part wasn't the actual decision. So when the moment came to say I quit, that wasn't hard at all. That came with a lot of ease. But the suffering is the seeming time leading up to it, where we're in this like battle with ourselves of, what do I do? If I do this, this is what's going to happen. If I do that, that's what's going to happen. And I'm going back and forth, and the suffering is in that experience, when in actuality, if we listen to what just Tony was just saying, is everything is okay, whether you do or you're not do. You can't mess it up. What's going to happen is going to happen. What's going to unfold is going to unfold. That truly is the trust, the really handing it over. And now when I make decisions, I really, with an intent to stay with the vertical, stay with God, stay with the pause, stay here, with the intent to stay here. I would like to think that I let decisions just happen as they happen, as opposed to getting caught up in it. So beautiful sharing from Tony. Great question from Tavi. Beautiful sharing from Bridget. We have about 2 or 3 minutes left. I'm going to hand it over to Bridget to share any final thoughts, and certainly share with everybody what's happening in LA. And certainly if anybody has any other final thoughts, I don't want to close it off. You can definitely share as well. Bridget, do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share with everybody?
Yeah, Tony, that was awesome. I really was relating a lot to it, and it's funny, the part about shutting up. It reminded me. I actually did I have a YouTube channel, and I did a blog, and it was called "What I Learned from a Run DMC song about meditation." Because there's a song by Run DMC that goes, "You talk too much, oh boy, you never shut up," and it was like, oh yeah, that's our ego. Our ego talks too much. It never shuts up. So like we have to actually shh and listen. So like one of the things I talked about is when I meditate, I have to like remind myself to listen for that small, still voice. So that was really great, Tony. This has been such a pleasure. I really enjoyed it so much, Craig. I'd love to let everyone know I am having a special evening event in Venice, California at Mystic Journey Bookstore with David Hoffmeister, who I absolutely love. I'm really excited. It's going to be the first time I've collaborated with him. It's this Monday, November 23rd. And anybody who's in California, I have a weekly class at Mystic Journey Bookstore, doing a class at Wanderlust in Hollywood. So I'm really trying to get A Course in Miracles like out there. And I created a digital course that's launching possibly even as early as next week. So if you guys want to go to my website, it's bridgettrama.com, and check it out. And what the course is how to read A Course in Miracles. Because for me, that was one of the hardest parts when I first started, was was trying to read it, and I know that a lot of people often give up on A Course in Miracles because they have a difficult time reading the text. So I break it down in a much more modern, contemporary way, but I ask Holy Spirit to, keep it, to the principles, but in a way that's just a little more modern to hear. So anyway, so that's it. Craig, thank you so much for inviting me. This has been such a pleasure. Thank you, everybody who's contributed and listened, and thank you so much for the work you're doing on yourself, because obviously we're of one mind. So as you do it for you, you do it for me, and as I do it for me, I do it for you. So thanks.
Awesome. I feel the same way. I'm very grateful that you joined in and you went with the trust and joined us this afternoon. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I really appreciate everyone's willingness to sharing these ideas and this desire for truth. I love you so much. There's so much love in my heart for this gathering and for the message that's being extended. I'm thrilled. I will be traveling in December 4th. I head to actually LA. Bridget, maybe if you want to have coffee, I'll be around or connect. We'll definitely have to go with the flow. I'll be in LA for about 4 or 5 days, and then I head off to the East Coast to a gathering and an event, and then I come back. I will be here every Saturday, nonetheless, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Next week, my formal guest will be Tony Williamson. So you heard from Tony today on the show. He'll be my guest for next week, and our topic is love without sacrifice. So I love you guys. Thank you so much, and until next time, much love.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.